Recording.
All right, what's up, guys? I'm Evan Wick,
And I'm Patrick Spray.
and this is episode 8 of Washed
Washed
Up.
up.
Yeah,
Not bad. All right.
it wasn't bad.
I don't think so, but we're doing it on our own. First time, so hopefully it goes well.
Yeah, Patrick's our technical assistant this time. Rushka's out,
Not
so
gonna go well. So
exciting. We'll see how Patrick does when the pressure's on. Um, but I mean, it should be easy. Just don't accidentally press the stop recording button, and you should be good.
I already messed that up once.
All right. Um, okay. First things first. I'm a movie star.
Yes, dude. How do you feel?
I was nominated Best Actor for Supporting Role in Unstoppable, and I was nominated by my girlfriend. No, I
That's
was not only was I nominated, I won the award. I won the
that's
award for the
cool.
night because we had three guys on my team, well, including myself. So two guys on my team were actually in the movie. So we gave them nominations, and I, of course, gave myself the award.
Yeah, as you should. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, so we had one guy was like in the locker room scene. That was cool, and then Coda was getting pinned in the semifinals
Oh, that's cool.
in a North Carolina singlet. Yeah, that was cool. But and then I was in the weigh-in scene. So if you're watching the movie, I'm in the second weigh-in scene before he beats Matt McDonough.
I still haven't seen the movie yet.
That's not a spoiler. Everyone knows that. Everyone,
No.
anyone who's watching this podcast should know that Anthony Robles beats Matt McDonough.
Wait, so you were in the same line as him?
In who? As who?
As Robles?
I was in the same line as Robles. So they do the
Were you
weigh-in
trying to
scene and
play a
they pan.
125 pounder?
No, they don't. Dude, if you watch the movie, the wrestling is very inaccurate. But I mean, it's the movie's got great reviews. But yeah, the wrestling was really awkward, and
That's
they were like
something that I
grunting
guess
a lot. It was
I've
weird.
always kind of wondered is like, what do they tell the people in the background or the other wrestlers to do? Like, hang on, I saw um, DeJulius who plays McDonough. Like, I saw him doing the voiceover with the mouthpiece in his thing. I don't know if you saw him post that on his Instagram, but he was basically
Hmm.
like trying to do all the voiceover for the scene itself.
Yeah.
And I was wondering like what is the accuracy of like the wrestling itself? Like, do the directors try to direct the wrestlers how to wrestle? That always seemed weird to me.
Well, like the people who are really in the scene, like the people who are wrestling Robles, they know what they're doing. Like so they had Kota Holman, who's our 125 pounder. Sidney Flores, who was the starter for Air Force, who actually broke like top 15 in the country a couple times. He wrestled in those scenes. So the people who are really in the scenes know what they're doing, but the people in the background, it's kind of spotty. Like
Is it?
some of the guys had never wrestled a day in their life, and they were in the
They're just
backgrounds
like
on an NCAA
extras.
mat. Yeah, and but me and my Michael Goldfeder, he wrestled at Cal Poly and UNC, we were wrestling each other in the background of one of the scenes, and we were just they didn't give us any direction, so we were just doing crazy like lat drops and flying squirrels. It was kind of funny,
Did you
but
see yourself in the background of the show or the video or the movie?
I did. But you didn't
Were
see
you
any of the
flying or was
crazy
he
stuff.
flying?
But the we were both doing a little bit of when you double leg someone and then they do the forward roll.
Oh yeah,
There's a lot of those. There's a lot of those. It was fun,
that's
but
cool. That is cool.
they didn't give us any direction. And in all honesty, we were probably more distracting in the background with all the rolls and flips and stuff. But the director came up to us. He's like, "I like your guys' energy. I like your guys' energy. Like it was kind of getting slow in here, and you guys came in, and I like it." And I
Yeah,
was like,
dude, this is what practice is like every
"Sweet."
time.
I thought he was gonna be like, "Hey, like just do a
Tone it.
regular wrestling match."
Let's tone it down a little bit, huh? You're
Yeah,
not the main
I was.
actors.
He was gonna be like, "Wrestling's not this exciting. It's not this exciting." He's like, I know it's not."
That's cool.
But
Who's the
yeah,
director?
I don't know, but he's directed a lot of really good movies. Let's see. Uh, there were a lot of really famous people there. The Don Cheadle was there. He saw me. William Gold Goldenberg.
Goldenberg. It sounds like a good director. I
Let's
don't know
see.
who that is though. But
Let's see
no,
what
so
movies he's directed.
J Lo's in the movie. Don Cheadle's in the movie. Um, what the hell is it? Michael
Don
Pena's in the
Cheadle's in the movie.
movie.
Michael Pena's in it. I think Ben Affleck was involved, and then the medic, the medic from Saving Private Ryan was in there, and I tried to say something to him, and it was
Oh,
really awkward.
you told me this story. Please tell this story because it is hilarious. Maybe I
Well, so
thought it
I
was
saw
funny
him.
because I know how much you love that movie, but
It was funny. So Saving Private Ryan has like is a very impactful movie for me. It's in his scene specifically is very impactful because he basically he dies and then he's crying for his mom. And so I remember when I was a kid, I was like a little kid and I went up and hugged my mom after my mom's right here. She's watching it live, the,
aw,
the show live. But and I went up and hugged my mom and I told him that in front of his kids and he was very put off. But now that I think back, it was awkward because I was very sweaty in a wrestling singlet
you're
approaching
right.
him in front of his who were probably like less than 10 years old and he was probably like, dude, get out of here. I'm not. I mean, he was
What
nice
are you
enough.
talking
He was
about?
like, yeah, thanks, dude, whatever. He's the guy from Ted, the creep from Ted.
Yeah.
He tried to say hi to me later and I was like, it's too late, bro. it's it's already awkward.
So you blew him off the second time. I see it.
I had to. I was like, but this is awkward now, and it's my fault, but it is what it
So
is.
you weren't really fitting into
But
the
that
LA
that's
crowd,
actually
is what
so.
you're
This
saying.
brings me, dude. LA is my city, man. This I don't know where this guy's from. Where's he from? You know what I mean? I was born and raised here. He's probably not from Los
Did you
Angeles.
tell him that? Did you tell him like, dude,
I own
who do
these
who do you
streets.
think you are?
I like to think. Listen to this. This is a stupid conspiracy theory that I don't think has any credibility whatsoever. I like to think that the reason that they named the John Wick movies that they gave the last name Wick was because of me and my brothers were state champs. The the year they made John Wick, and somehow it made its way to Hollywood that there's these really good wrestlers named the Wick twins, and they were like, "All right, Wick's a cool last name. Let's do it." It's unlikely, but
That might be the stupidest
the
thing
odds
I've
are not
ever
zero.
heard you say.
The odds are not zero.
The odds
It
are
can
less
it can
than
happen.
zero.
It's impossible. It's negative. It's not a
Let's
thing.
go. Let's move on.
What do you
What are we
think?
talking about today?
What do you think is the What do you think is the best wrestling movie? Talking about wrestling movies.
Okay, are we talking about overall? Or are we talking about wrestling in the movie? Or are we talking about like, what are we talking about when we talk about best wrestling movie?
That's a good criteria. Overall, what's the best wrestling movie?
I haven't seen your new movie, so I can't include that into my ranking.
Okay,
I love
you should
Vision
watch it.
Quest. I grew up on Vision Quest, and I think it's a great story of determination, of perseverance, and they definitely include some other drama stuff. But I mean, Daniel Day Lewis kills it in that movie, and you can't tell me that he doesn't.
Which one was Daniel Day Lewis?
Am I wrong? Is that not Daniel Day Lewis? Not Daniel Day Lewis. I said the wrong name. Um,
Hey, Daniel Day Lewis in a wrestling movie would be
I
sick
said the
though.
wrong
Let's
name. I
let's
said the wrong
manifest.
name. I said the wrong name.
Let's manifest.
He's getting old now, dude. He's getting old now.
Hey, hey,
I,
clip it. I'll tag Daniel Day Lewis on our Instagram account. Clip it.
it's not. It's Matthew
Good clip.
Modine. That's what I meant. Damn it.
Matthew Modine. Yeah.
I'm
So I
gonna
mean, I
get
think
killed
it's
for that.
yeah. You're gonna get flamed, bro. I knew
Oh,
immediately. I didn't know Daniel. I didn't know Matthew Modine is his name.
Modine.
Matthew Modine. I didn't know it was him, but I knew
He's
it
the
definitely was him.
scientist in the upside. How's it called? Stranger Things. He's the scientist who's like Eleven's dad
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Stranger Things.
Everyone here knows, and I think it's the best movie when it comes to like if you want to watch a movie about wrestling, but it's not the best movie
What's the
overall
best
for
wrestling
wrestling.
movie
I
then?
think Foxcatcher for sure.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about Foxcatcher.
It has to be. I mean, you got Channing Tatum, you got Steve Carell, Mark Ruffalo, and Steve Carell did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, he definitely did. I went with Vision Quest strictly on nostalgia.
Yeah, strictly on like nostalgia, and I don't think Unstoppable. I didn't really get to watch it. I watched it with all my guys, and they were pretty much just yelling and screaming the entire time because they were excited to see themselves in the movie.
Which one?
But
That's this one that you were just in, correct?
Unstoppable, yeah.
Unstoppable.
I
Okay.
don't think it's gonna be like a household name for wrestling movies, and it doesn't seem like Foxcatcher really is either. But
Is your
Vision
Wi-Fi
Quest
spotty,
is.
dude?
No, why?
I don't think it's mine, but you're like glitching.
Ma, is the Wi-Fi bad? I'm gonna ask her about the meatloaf later.
Nah, the meatloaf.
Next,
Ask her about the meatloaf.
now we're getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, yeah.
What what do you think about national duels?
Oh, dude, the payout?
That's insane.
That's insane. I
Yeah,
I mean, I think that every team's going to have to want to do it now, right? I mean, especially with funding being as difficult as it is to come by for a lot of these schools, if they get the chance, they have to go.
Kale's saying he's not interested, which
Well,
is
they don't
really
need the
pissing me
funding.
off.
Yeah, it's stupid for sure, but they're not a team that needs the funding.
Yeah, they don't need the funding. And but I mean at least just say that. Like we don't need the money and we don't need to risk. I don't even know if it's about
What's
risk
at
like
risk?
losing nothing. I think they'd torch every team there anyway, and then they get $250,000. Why not go, Kale? I mean, and it's only good for the sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't. That's the whole thing with him saying that it's like that's not my job as a wrestling coach. It's like, what the hell is your job, dude? Like, you coach wrestling kids, you do that already. Shouldn't you put them in the best possible situation to put their skills on display? Isn't that part of your job as a wrestling coach as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole it's not my job as a wrestling coach to do that. I mean, you could say there's a lot of things that aren't your job. I mean, you don't have to make national champions, but you do because you want to get the best out of your guys and you want to make them great. Um, and I think he's basically just suggesting that it takes away from NCAA's, I think, and because of that, it's taking away from what the sport is, which I totally think is dumb. I think that us depending on one single event every year and wrestling only getting one weekend every year to be highlighted is so dumb. I can't stand it. I mean, it would be so cool if we had an event in, I think it's in November. If we had an event in November that was huge, that everyone watched,
Is it in
like
November?
National Duels, and
National Duels
it's in
isn't in
November or
November.
December. It's early.
It's not that early. I think it's
I
like
think this is separate.
I think it's like a week before Christmas, isn't it?
Okay, so in December.
I think
So
that
still,
makes sense,
I
right?
think that would be great. Yeah, to have an event then, and then to have an event in March, that was huge. It can only help to grow our sport, and I think we need more opportunities in college wrestling, or more opportunities to compete like that in college wrestling, because college wrestling is really what attracts the most viewership for wrestling.
Well, for that
And
one
if we
event.
don't, for NCAA thing,
Yeah, for that one event, it attracts the most viewership. I wouldn't say on a regular basis NCAA attracts the most viewership.
no,
Or do you think
just
I'm
for
wrong?
NCAA's.
Yes.
Just for
Okay.
NCAA's, and maybe the Penn State and Iowa duel, the Penn State Ohio State duel. I think that's some
But
really
think
good
about it. Like
viewership.
those are duels. Those are the one-offs that people are like, "Oh, let's go watch this." It's like if we can get that all across, like I think Ben said this, but like over like a 2 or 3 week period, do it like the national championship for football. Make it a bracket and do like this week we're doing the quarterfinals. This week we're doing the semis. This week we're doing the finals. Like, don't you think that would generate a massive amount of viewership?
Massive amount of
Like
viewership.
think about it. You could just market it this way. There's $250,000 on the line if you win this game. You don't win this game or this duel. I mean, you don't get to go for the $500,000 championship prize.
Yeah,
Like the stakes are so
and
high with that.
yeah, and it only makes people who are watching because of the college aspect even more involved, right? They really want to watch their team win an NCAA title when it's a team title.
And think about this, like you are giving someone in that lineup, maybe they don't have the highest name or notoriety, but think about the NIL possibilities because they can go out and win a duel for their entire team in that last match, right? Say this guy gets a pin. Their team needed a pin and he got it. No one knows who the fuck he is. I shouldn't say that word. Let's cut that out, Jake. Um, That's
You're gonna do it. You're the guy
1450.
now.
I am not cutting that. That just slipped out. But no one knows who this guy is, and he goes out there and he gets this pin, and now all of a sudden everyone's going to want NIL around this kid because of that. Like the
Well, I mean
opportunities for that are insane. I think.
that still happens now. I don't know if NIL. I mean, yeah, we have another event. That matters.
I'm saying on a national scale, though, that's not how it works.
What that
Like the
so you're
one-off
saying
duels are not going to generate that level of notoriety for a win or a loss.
right? So you think if a kid does this at the duels as opposed to, let's say, pops off at CKLV, it matters more at these duels than CKLV.
Because the stakes are so much higher with the money invested in it and the money prize
Do you think
reward.
that's Do you think that's why college coaches, when they're investing NIL money, rely so much on performance at NCAA's because that shows the kind of pressure that a kid can handle?
Um, that's a good question. I don't
Like,
necessarily know.
I think there's kids who are really, really good who don't have a great NCAA tournament. They had a great regular season, and just because they don't have a great, I mean, time will tell. But it seems like now, if you don't make it at the NCAA tournament, you ain't getting a good NIL deal.
That's a good. I mean, that's a good point. I don't necessarily know if that's what college coaches are thinking or not, because I'm not really in
I
that
think,
world. But
I think I think I've swayed myself. I don't think you've swayed me. I think I've swayed myself. Yeah,
to
if we
what?
have another impactful event that coaches can look at as an NIL opportunity, that could be big for guys.
So I swayed you.
I swayed myself. It was a thought experiment in my mind. All right, you got me. Fine. You swayed me.
That's
But
great. We
um
should pump it up.
yeah, we should pump it up.
Don't you?
But yeah, I think we should be taking national duels substantially more seriously. Kale needs to get on board, dude. I mean, it's not gonna be that big if Penn State doesn't go.
I
Or
think
you know what maybe
it
he's
could
doing?
be big.
He
It
might just
just
want
go ahead.
he might just want more money up front. Be like, hey, I know what my worth is. Give me $100,000 just to show up. Maybe he's doing that.
I mean, if I'm the one promoting that tournament and Kale comes to me with that, I'm like, dude, kick rocks, get out of here.
No, dude, nuh-uh. No
If you're
way.
no,
If I'm promoting
no,
the
because it's
tournament,
like
if I'm promoting the tournament and I know that Penn State isn't going to show up, I know already that that tournament isn't going to be as significant.
that's fair. I don't know. I just to me that's just rewarding
Kale knows
behavior.
his worth.
That like yeah, he knows his worth, but it's like, dude, give back to the sport at least a little bit. Like to me, that feels like he's taking and taking and taking. I don't know Kale. That doesn't seem like his personality, right? That doesn't seem like anything that the kids coming from that program seem to embody. I have a hard time believing that that's kind of his sticking point is that he wants more money to even go when he knows that he's probably at least considered a shoe-in for that top prize. Why would he want 100 grand right off the rip? I don't see that as the case.
Yeah, he knows he could probably win it anyway.
Yeah, that I don't think that's it.
That's a good point.
And that just kind of seems
You're
like
right.
such a shady and scummy thing to do.
I don't think it's shady. Hey, dude, he knows his worth, bro. He should get paid. Penn State
Dude, they are
is
getting
gonna
paid.
make that event big.
Look,
It doesn't
dude,
matter if you're already getting paid, bro. This capitalism. That's what his worth is.
you want to talk about capitalism?
Yeah, I want to talk about capitalism in wrestling. We need more capitalism in wrestling. I
Those
mean,
are words I
he
never
knows
thought
too.
I'd hear
Hey,
you say.
listen, he knows his worth too when he's recruiting kids, right?
That's a
From what I
different
hear,
story.
Penn State is not handing out four-way scholarships. You know why? Because they know their worth. You
No,
want to win
because
a
they
national
can.
title?
They can. No, that's not why they're doing it. Because they can fund it on the back end with all of the money that they're raising for their RTC. That's why they're
That's
doing that.
now. That's now. But from what I've heard in the past, I've heard even David Taylor was hard pressed to get a full-ride scholarship at Penn State.
Listen,
That was before NIL,
just
and it's
listen.
because he knows if you wanna win an NCAA title, You have a really good shot of winning it at Penn
David,
State.
okay,
I might
David
not.
Taylor's an anomaly because he was going to go to Iowa State and he followed Kale. So obviously, money was not the most important thing for David Taylor. Following Kale was.
Mm,
He was going to go to Iowa State with Kale, and then Kale went to Penn State. He's like, okay, I'm following.
he was at Iowa State with Kale.
That's what I'm
Even
saying.
even then, I've heard that even with the best wrestlers, not just David Taylor. I've heard even some of the best wrestlers who were at Penn State weren't on full ride, and they were national champion contenders or national champions. Significant.
I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I think it happened everywhere. But I'm saying within the last at least half decade, they are funding it on the back end.
They're
That's why.
funding it on the back end, and what I'm suggesting is that he could possibly get more money out of this situation. College wrestling now more than ever requires more money to run a program. Period. End of story. Right? And
Fair,
if
but
he can
like,
make a little bit money,
don't you think that like other teams should be getting that money to make it a more competitive field? Otherwise, it's Penn State running away with it for the next 20 years.
for
It's
sure
not
I do.
competitive
But
because of the lack of money at
Kale,
other places.
Kale is not. I doubt Kale cares. Kale wants to get his money and be the number one team in the country.
If he
Period.
wanted
He's
his
not
money,
trying
he'd
to
show up to the
charity out
duels.
any money to any other team.
If he wanted the money, he'd show up to the duels where there's an opportunity for that amount of
True.
money.
And that's what I'm saying is I think it could be his way of saying I know what I'm worth. If you want, you got to pay Penn State more to show up to this duel,
I
this
don't
duel
know if I
tournament.
agree with that because the winner gets $500,000, and I don't think there's a team that is close to Penn State this year.
They might want viewership. I don't know what the commission on viewership.
They want pay
Whatever. I
per
don't know
view.
what they're going to
Is
run
what
it
you're
on. Maybe they're
saying.
going to run it on Flow.
They want a number on
Yeah.
pay per view. Is what you're saying.
Yes, they want a number on pay per view. I mean, it's like, dude, if I'm Conor McGregor and I'm showing up to some dude's card to fight, I want more money than everyone else that's going there
Yeah, but
because
no
I
one
know
wanted that
I'm
before
gonna
this.
bring
Go ahead.
I'm gonna bring more viewers, right? And the same thing, I'm Penn State. I'm gonna bring more viewers to national duels. So I think it could be unless Kale really just does not care about growing the sport too much, which I don't believe. I think that
No,
it
you're
could be
saying
his way of
he
trying to
cares more
garner more
about
money.
personal money gaining than he does about the growth of the sport. That's what you're trying to argue.
I don't think that he cares more about it. I just think he probably doesn't want to be going to tournaments and not necessarily being taken advantage of, but not making money where it's due. Is Penn State going to bring more viewers to this national duels or not?
For sure.
For sure. And why should Oklahoma State, who's I don't know if they're running the thing, but I've heard the $1 million is coming from a donor from Oklahoma State, from what I've heard,
I don't know
allegedly.
that either. So I
And
heard that
and
from you.
why should Oklahoma State make all the viewership for the fans, thousands of fans that are going to watch this national duels event because of him?
So
He deserves he should get some money for that. And I'm speaking on Kale's behalf. Kale is thinking I should get some money for that. Penn State is bringing a lot of viewers to this event. We should get a cut of that. And like cool 250, but at the end of the day, we're bringing in more than that. We're bringing all the viewers to this thing. We should get a cut of that.
do you think that that's maybe why they don't go to the Southern Scuffle anymore too? Like, why are they pulling their guys out of all of these tournaments then? Are they not getting paid enough to go to
Um,
these tournaments?
they don't get paid to go to those tournaments at all.
That's what I'm saying. Is that why they don't go anymore?
Um,
That
I
seems like
don't
a far
know.
fetch.
What? That they don't go.
They,
I don't know.
I don't think
I
they
think the
sent
big
any
reason why they don't.
starters to Southern Scuffle this year. No, I don't think they sent one.
No, they didn't. I think maybe Bar was Bar one of them.
I
No,
don't think so because
Mirasol won
Mirasola
it.
won it.
Yeah. No, but they haven't been sending a lot of guys to those tournaments. But I think that's just because of the peaking process. Maybe I think they do what they have to in order to meet match count at this point and not overtrain their guys. Yada yada yada.
So are
That's
they
why they're
going
doing
to
the stuff they're
tournaments
doing
or are they
now.
only doing duels?
Well, they went to the Black Knight Invitational,
Okay.
which is silly that you would go to the Black Knight Invitational and then say it's not worth your time to go to the national duels.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I would be interested to hear what he actually says. We can debate this all day, but at the end of the day, neither one of us really know why he doesn't want to do
Yeah.
that. And I
What
would, I
whether that's Kale's plan is to make money off of it, I don't know. But I'm just saying that could be it, and he's not. I don't think he's wrong for thinking that. For thinking, hey, I should get a cut of this. I have a lot of fans that are going to purchase this event or whatever. I don't know what it's going to be on, but
what
we should get a cut for it.
here's
That's
my
that's all
thing
I'm
though.
saying.
Don't you? Yeah. See, I just don't know if I can agree with that simply because if I was a donor at Penn State and Kale's like, hey guys, I think we're gonna go to these national duels. We're gonna go kick butt. We're gonna go take first. We're gonna win all this prize money. Don't you think that the school, the donors are all gonna be like, yeah, Kale, let's reward you for going to showcase our university on this national scale where we're winning all of this money. He's gonna be
I
making that
do
money on the back end. I don't know why he would want it up front or why he would need it up front to even go.
just because you're making money on the back end doesn't mean you can't make a little bit more.
I don't think he's that greedy.
All right, maybe he's not. Let's talk now. Oh, tragic. Cleveland State program gets cut.
It did. I thought I saw some stuff
Yeah.
about Cleveland State. I didn't know that's what the whole news cycle was about. Damn, that sucks.
It's
They're D2,
it's
correct?
unfortunate. No, they're D1. They're D1.
Cleveland State?
Cleveland State's D1.
Okay.
They're not very great. I think I've heard some people saying that this is kind of the part of the process of NIL, smaller schools getting cut. I don't think it is. I think it's just a smaller school that hasn't really gotten a lot of notoriety and has kind of been dragging along for a long time. Still unfortunate as it is. I think, gosh, man, I mean, I think they needed to show a little bit more in the time that they had, and I don't think they did.
Question for you. Do you think that
Mhm.
this could ignite a snowball effect for other schools who might be struggling competition wise and then now also financially with all of that going along with it?
Not Cleveland State. If we see a big program get cut, that could be dangerous. If we see a Big Ten program get cut, that could be really dangerous. But a Cleveland State,
Well, it's
no, I don't
always
think
going to
so. I
start
don't
off with
think
the
it.
smaller schools. It's always going to start off with the smaller schools.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't think Wisconsin, I don't think Michigan State, I don't think Indiana are looking at Cleveland State to see what they're going to do. I think they're going to do their own thing. That's my opinion.
I think that's fair. What I'm saying is I feel like there are some universities where like the chancellors or whoever's in charge of these universities, they don't care about wrestling. They don't care about a lot of the sports, I'm sure. Right? And
Hmm.
I'm sure if they're seeing what I'm saying is if this starts to be like a more normal occurrence where two programs are getting cut a year, even if they're
Hmm.
small, I think chancellors are going to be like, oh, you know what? That's kind of like a normal thing now. Maybe I'm more okay doing it. That's kind of, I think, the fear
I
of a
think
lot
there
of wrestling fans.
there could be, um, but again, I don't know of how many substantial or significant programs right now are hearing about Cleveland State dropping their program. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair. I mean, again, it's one of those things where we don't actually know. But
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there could be a situation where an athletic director hears about two small schools cutting the program and maybe thinks to bring it up, but I doubt. I don't see Cleveland State starting a snowball effect in any way, shape, or form. Um, but NIL, the whole NIL thing, profit sharing is scary. I don't think this is part of it.
fair.
But yeah, sad to see Cleveland State. We competed against Cleveland State in a couple tournaments, so that's sad to see. But
They were at the Michigan State
um,
Open. I remember that.
they're at Michigan State, and I think that they were at the SIUE Open when we were there. But
Maybe, yeah.
gosh, a lot of alumni, a lot of stories there to be had at Cleveland State wrestling, a lot of history, I'm sure. But it all stops here. Um, let's um let's rehash
I was just thinking about
state tournament.
a funny story of you back in college, but I told that story earlier today. Sorry, you said funny stories back in college, so I was just reminiscing.
Is
We'll
it a
get back.
story you were able to share? We'll talk about it after the podcast then. Keep it to yourself. Uh, let's rehash the divisions and state tournaments thing because we just
Let's
posted
do
that
that. Yeah.
on Instagram.
What
It's something I'm
was some of
really
the
interested in.
responses that you got?
Um, I got some people who are a little bit confused on what I was talking about when it came to coaches wanting to see state championships. Um,
Like as a
a kid having
recruiting
state
thing?
championships. Yeah, and I think it was something that I was talking to a coach a while back about when he was recruiting in California. He said he wished that there was two divisions so that some of those kids can still be state placers or maybe even state champs, and he could recruit them a little better. But it just doesn't look too good when he's recruiting a kid who's not a state placer, not a state champ.
See, that's kind of where I'm like, at any level, if a kid places, if a kid doesn't place, you have to believe in a kid if you're going to recruit him. If you recruit solely based off of position at state, then I don't think you're going to be in a position to recruit kids very long.
Exactly. I think if you're recruiting, you got to be looking overall at their performance.
You got to look at skills,
Unfortunately, there's
development, things like that.
when you're I think in Wisconsin this was a problem a while back. I don't think it's a problem anymore, but you have a lot of kids who pretty much only value state and don't want to compete postseason at Fargo, things like that.
I
Freestyle.
wouldn't say there's a massive amount. The, I would say there is a of higher level wrestlers. So like obviously the kids who only wrestle in season are going to only wrestle in season. But I would say the kids that compete well in the state, there are probably a handful that are not competing outside of the high school season. I don't think it's a very common
Okay.
occurrence, but I definitely think that it is possible. I would think a majority of the kids are wrestling outside of the high school state tournament series.
We have a lot of kids in California, Clovis High School, Buchanan High School, don't wrestle freestyle a lot, and it's really strange to see that. Um, I think they just train folk style all year round. We have some guys who run the Clovis team, who run the Buchanan team. They're great programs, but even a lot of the kids, like there was a kid last year who we were recruiting who we didn't hear of. We didn't even hear of him until his senior year. He ended up being the starter for the first time, and I think he won state. He placed top three for sure. He
He was
he
a
went to
one-time
Maryland.
starter, and
One time starter at Buchanan.
that's impressive.
But I mean, if this kid had been competing freestyle consistently, we would have been able to hear about this guy. But that's just they didn't have a lot of opportunities because he didn't even start until his senior year. So I think um, that kind of goes into play there. Kids who are just only valuing state and only valuing in-state accomplishments.
Well, I
It's
think
kind
you're
of
kind of
unfortunate, but
arguing that like coaches shouldn't only look at the state series as well, if that's the case, because obviously that sometimes it's tough for coaches if a kid's not only competing in other places, but that's kind of where you just gotta like you got to do more research. I feel like as a college coach, you got to get in these high
you got to
school
do more
games and
research.
like go watch practices and stuff. See who catches your eye that day.
Yeah, but that's like I don't know if it's the college coach's job to go into the room and find who the kids are. I think it's the high school coach's job to find tournaments and opportunities for these kids to be seen. What
I think
does it
it's a
matter if I
two-way
go into a
street.
room and see that a kid, dude? I mean, to an extent, but it doesn't really mean much if I walk into a room and a kid's looking good in a practice room. What have you done? You know what I mean?
Fair, but I mean, to me, a college coach should be doing. Think about it this way: what do football coaches in college do? They go to all these high school games and they recruit, right? Sure, they're games, but I think they go to practices too. They have to go and like that's why football is such a moneymaker, dude. They have people who are solely there to go and recruit kids because they need so many kids to come in to continue to continually have a functional team, you know? And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes wrestling kind of gets caught in this thing where they're like, they forget to recruit for a while, then all of a sudden they look at the team, they're like, who's going to be our starters this year? It's like, oh, you kind of slacked on recruiting this year, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is on the college coach more than anything.
Yeah, but I'd be hard pressed to go into a room and see that it's a really good wrestler and recruit him in spite of him not being the starter, in spite of him not performing well at tournaments.
That's you don't. Maybe it's
And
not
it's for,
recruiting. Maybe it's just inquiring. Hey, why isn't this kid wrestling?
yeah,
Because
that's
there's no
fair.
way you can go into
That's
a
fair.
room, see a kid who's maybe not the starter, so you have no idea who he is. But then the next year he goes out and takes first, second, or third at the California State tournament. That kid's gonna catch your eye in the practice room, especially if you've never even heard of him.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, kids have caught my eye in the practice room and not ended up to be that great. It's
It's
very
fair,
hard to tell how someone's going to do when you just look at them in the practice room. You got to see how they compete. You got to see how they do when the spotlight's on.
fair. I'm not saying you're wrong, and I think that that is true. But I definitely think that that is a good engagement thing that college coaches could do more of that they do very little of.
For sure. Yeah, I don't think a lot of coaches are maximizing their recruiting potential, that's for sure.
Not at all.
Um Division wise, what would you like to see in Wisconsin? How many divisions? Keep it the way it is?
I think I answered that last time. I mean, I would love one division. I think it would be very cool to see that, but I also think that it's functional the way it is with three divisions. I I don't see the necessity to change it. I think that the fandom that the D3 fans bring kind of helps electrify the Cole Center. I think that kind of brings a cool element to it. I just looked at our votes. It looked like a majority of people are either like three divisions, or they're scared of big school programs.
They actually voted that.
There's 22% that said they're scared of big school programs. We put that in there as a
Wow.
Evan put that in there as a joke, and
I can't believe 22% of the voters are scared of big schools. That is absurd. That
how
is
many? What
absurd.
do you think the percentage was of Division One, or just one division? My bad.
Well, now
I've given you
you've
two
already
of the
told me
percentages, so
kind of
figure it out.
13%.
Lower, wrong, loser.
10?
11.
Wow. I was kind of close though
You
on
were
both
close. That was a good guess.
guesses. Yeah. Wow, I cannot believe that. I'm a big one division fan. I do think we don't get a lot of fans. You guys get more fans in Wisconsin than we do in California, which is tragic because we have a lot more people. Um,
I do
but
think that it's like an entire community thing though, especially for those smaller schools where they know that their kid could go and do well, and maybe it's like this kid finally made it to state. This kid's whole family's going to the state tournament. Then they're bringing the whole
yeah, and if they
town,
know that you can win
and
state,
yes, and it's such an event. And honestly, like you've been around downtown when the Madison or when the individual state tournament's going on. It's electric, you know.
it's sweet.
It is so much fun, and I would hate to kind of lose that atmosphere.
It's just to me, state has always been about who is the number one guy at the weight. Let's figure it out. And I don't think that Wisconsin gets to the bottom of it very well. I think there's some weights where you can figure it out. Of course, when Keegan O'Toole was a senior, we all kind of knew, but
A lot
I
of
don't
these
think a
kids are
lot of
wrestling
weights
out of
are.
season now most of the time, or they've wrestled once or twice during the season. They are competing enough against each other to really have a solid idea of who's the number one person. And honestly, the
I
nice
just,
thing too is if we don't get to see those matches very often, the nice thing is WI Wrestle is adding these big cheese duels like out of season and trying their best to get these guys to come in and wrestle each other. Dude, they are competing against one another so often that it's very rare that you have not seen a D1 state champ versus a D2 or D3 state champ. It is very rare that you haven't seen that match. Take
True, but
215.
I just think
Here, I'll give you an example. This year, D1, D2, D3 division 1, 2 and 3, 215. All three of the top guys have wrestled each other and multiple times. Like they've all split matches with each other this year.
exactly they've all split.
Yes.
So if I feel like you just teed me up here, let's have a state tournament and figure out who's the best guy, and that guy will be a state champion this year. That guy
Best
will
guy
be the
that
best,
day.
crowned the best wrestler and state champion. Well, I mean, you can say that about any weight
Exactly.
class, any division, any time.
For sure. That's you teed me up.
Um, I think that's incorrect. I mean, at that point,
Yeah, I'm just playing devil
you
advocate.
shouldn't have a state tournament in general. If anybody could be the guy any day, you know what I
I'm
mean.
just playing devil's advocate here. You're right.
Um, I also want to rehash. I won't even rehash the freestyle thing.
What
But
freestyle
I
thing?
just want to know, can we get at least, can I get advocacy on your end for a push out rule and feet to back from neutral in folk style wrestling? Please. I'm so tired.
You
Here's what I'm
cannot
tired
get
of
an
saying.
advocacy for me for a push out rule. I
Why
like
not?
the. I think the high school coaches are starting to call like push out stalls like the college room or like college matches. I'm cool with that. I do not think that there needs to be a step out push rule because I think that that's just a lame man's excuse for getting a point. Like
And
I
I
can
don't
I can
see
push on you real hard and go get a point. I think that's stupid.
if I can dominate position on the mat. That's not dumb.
There is a difference between pushing a guy out. Yes, there's a difference between pushing a guy out and then like hand fighting this guy to death all the way to the edge where I push him out. There's a difference.
Well, so there's already a shove rule. You can't shove out. What if we added that?
How
You
often
can't
is that called
shove.
in freestyle, dude? There's a rule, but how often is it like actually?
If you push two arms, well, the thing is, when you're watching freestyle, what you're seeing is a dude getting hand fought to death out of bounds, and then he gets a point.
You think it's like that every time?
Not every single time, but the vast majority of the time, dude. This is you shouldn't be in the sport of wrestling and the sport of controlling another human being. You shouldn't be getting shoved out of bounds at will. Period.
Yeah, no, I don't think that there should be a push out rule.
And so, what I also don't understand is how can you advocate for a subjective stall call going out of bounds? I mean, I think the stall call is better than nothing, but it's just
Because
certainly
I
not
think
nearly
it
as good
gives
as just a
fair
push out rule.
warning. I think it gives fair warning to the defensive wrestler that, hey, I will call you for a point if this happens again.
If you get shoved out again,
Yes. I think that
so you're good.
it's subjective for sure, but I feel like as long as a ref is pretty consistent, it happens once, that's a fair warning to a wrestler. That's what I think. And plus
I
it's
mean,
high school. Number one, like if you wanted to do it in college, we could have a maybe a little bit more of a discussion because those are a little bit more of grown men. But no, I don't think that a freshman should be penalized for going out of bounds. Sorry.
I think they should. I think they should.
If
You
you
should
want
be
to, then
penalized if
that is exactly why there's a freestyle season, in my opinion. If you want that push out real cool, wrestle in the off season.
no. I totally think that we could have a push out rule and still maintain folk style wrestling. I think that we could do it. We could have a push out rule. Um, we could have a push out rule and still have mat wrestling, still have riding time, still have near fall. We could do that easily.
I
We're doing it halfway now with the stall calls. We're doing it halfway.
I appreciate the like one toe in the cylinder rule. That goes out the window as soon as there's a push out rule.
Um, I do like the one toe in the cylinder rule, but only now because of
How
folk
could you
style
have
wrestling.
both?
Well, I only like it now under the traditional folk style rules. I would prefer that we wouldn't have to worry about anything like that because guess what? If you go out of bounds, period, if your first wrestler goes out of bounds, period, your opponent gets awarded.
Can I?
for pushing you out.
I'll give you my spiel. I think that your advocation for that, and whoever else I hear about it, is, and I know I've heard you say this before, you want to get rid of folk style wrestling completely, correct?
I do, but regardless, I think that folk style can have a push out. Period.
Fair. But you would be okay getting rid of folk style wrestling.
To replace freestyle, but I want to make it clear. I think that folk style wrestling would be better with a push out.
Noted. I love folk style
This is
wrestling.
the leading question. He's leading, Your Honor. The witness is leading.
You can't object to this.
I object. All right,
Listen,
go ahead. Go ahead.
folk style wrestling is my favorite. I think it is the best. It is the best form of wrestling simply for the fact that you need to be proficient in three different areas for a solid amount of time. Theoretically, 2 minutes each position. And I think that more and more, the push out rule, all these other rules, we are trying to diminish mat wrestling. And I think that that is the wrong way to go. I think that is what makes the United States unique. I don't think it's hurting us at all on the world scene to have a folk style wrestling season, right? That was always the argument in the past, is that we couldn't beat the Russians because we're wrestling folk style for half the year. That's not the case anymore, right? These high level wrestlers who are coming from the folk style scene are now kicking major butt in the world scene, right? We didn't have the great Olympics this last year, granted, but I think that there are two other disciplines that are just completely neglected when people argue for a freestyle only style, right? And I don't, that's not my viewpoint. I love folk style wrestling. I love top wrestling. I love turns. I love a person trying to get away from me but not being able to. I love getting away from someone who thinks that they're good on top, right? I love all of those little mental battles that you can win on the mat. And like, you know this as well as I do. When you get taken down in freestyle, it's like, okay, cool, let me just take a quick break, right? Let me reset myself before I get back up to my feet. Whereas folk style, if you get taken down, you don't have the luxury of sitting down and waiting, right? It is a 6 or 7 minute complete battle of figuring out how to beat this guy in all three different areas, no matter what happens during the match.
And I still think in marquee big matches, mat wrestling will count. But what we're doing, it will matter. But what we're doing at the end of the day, when we're not allowing a push out, is we're allowing wrestlers who aren't as good, in my opinion, guys who are getting bullied, who are getting pushed, who are backing up, or are getting pushed towards the edge. We're allowing those wrestlers to still be able to compete, and then the guy gets in on a shot and then goes out of bounds, and now a guy's not getting rewarded for getting to a solid leg attack and pushing him out, right? Like, that's a big deal. The guy's not getting rewarded for dominating a hand fight and look, I'm hand fighting this guy. I'm getting him all the way to the edge. Now we're not rewarding this guy. I think still at the end of the day, we're going to see mat wrestling play a role in significant matches. What you will see is guys who are not as good getting beat up even worse. I will agree. But I think folk style wrestling does let wrestlers who are not as good at wrestling compete a little bit better against the guys who are
For what
really a lot
reason?
better. And we're not, because we're not rewarding guys. You know how many times in folk style I see a guy get to a leg and it goes out of bounds in a single match? Does it like 3 times, right? You know how many times I see a guy get a double leg and plant a guy on his back and the guy rolls through? Like, I should be rewarded for that. I picked this guy up and I slammed him on his back and then he rolls through and all of
Wrestling's
a
all
sudden I don't get
okay,
rewarded for
but
that.
wrestling is a sport about controlling another person. If I
That's
pick your
huge.
leg
That's
up and I get you out of
controlling.
bounds, that's not, no, control has got to be a secure position
Control for sure. I have a substantial amount of control over you when I have your leg up in the air and I can force you out of bounds. If I can hand
for a
fight you and
split
force you out of
second.
bounds.
For a split second, you have
It doesn't
control.
matter for a split second. If you take someone down for a split second, you get rewarded for it. How come when you
No,
push them out of bounds for a split
they've
second,
given
you get rewarded?
reaction time. They've actually changed that. There is reaction time. It's not a split second. You need to control this guy on the mat.
Okay, there's reaction time on a takedown. It would be hard to advocate any sort of reaction time on a push out. There's no like, was he out for 2 seconds, 3 seconds? That'd be
No,
hard to do. We all know
that's
that.
why there's boundaries, and that's why I'm saying that there is no push out rule because of that.
But what I'm saying is you don't see that there's any sort of control in getting to a leg attack, picking the leg up, and being able to push a guy out of bounds, or hand fighting a guy out of bounds.
That's not what I'm saying. I know that there is control with that, but what I'm saying is there is not enough control to garner points under the current rule system, and you're trying to change the current rule system to make that a point, correct?
I I think that there absolutely is. We put a ring around the circle, right? And this is where you're supposed to be wrestling. And I'm wrestling you out of bounds, right? We're starting in the center. Every time we start in the center, right? And I'm pushing you. I'm taking you from center, and I'm taking you out of bounds, right? I should be rewarded for that. Okay, I
So
agree that
what
there's some
happens
there's
if you
some
push me to
places
the
here.
edge and I circle in and then I push you out?
Um,
You did all the work. You did all the
that
hand fighting. You pushed me to the edge and then I just circle. You're out.
well, that's a poor argument because I can get to a leg attack and get this close to scoring. What happens when you roll through and end up on top? Ah,
I get a takedown
the
because I
vast
controlled you.
majority of the time, exactly. The vast majority of the time, what's going to happen? The guy who dominates a hand fight, what's going to happen, Patrick?
He's gonna win the match. What? Okay, so why?
He's going to get the
You'd
push
say
out.
that he's okay, fair, but a vast majority of the time, even with the current rule set, the person who is dominating the hand fight, getting to the most amount of legs, winning a lot of the I don't know how to a lot of the interactions between the two in different wrestling positions. Who's winning that match? No matter what rule set.
Not no matter what. Not no matter what.
I would
I
say
think
once
we've
they
seen
made
a
that
lot of
Dean Heil
matches.
rule, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think that once they've made that Dean Heil rule with the near fall exposure in college, 9 times out of 10, the right person's winning that match. I think that they made a good rule, and I don't think that we need to make more rules because they think it's not good enough.
But again, I think that you're on the opposite side of the Dean Heil rule here. The Dean Heil rule made folk style a bit more freestyle than it used to be, right?
I th- what I'm saying is, here's fair, sure, but what I'm saying is we give an inch of folk style to freestyle, you take a mile, right? I'm done giving an inch. Is basically my argument. We gave you guys enough. Stop. Leave the folk style the way it is. It's great,
But you like the Dean Heil rule.
and I don't
That
like the
wasn't
push
that
out.
wasn't a compromise for folk style. That wasn't a compromise for folk style wrestling. It made folk style better. And I think when we see the push out, yeah, I think there's people who are going to be resistant to it. But when you see, okay, all right, bro, you were on the edge like 5 times that match, and you got pushed out. Sure, he didn't take you down, right? But dude, you shouldn't have gotten pushed to the edge. You shouldn't have backed up to the edge. That's just plain and simple wrestling, dude. That's controlling another human being, putting him on the edge, right? Controlling center. I think that's big. I think that needs to be rewarded. And we also
I severely
need to do a
disagree with
feet to
you.
back.
Yeah, you just come out and say that you want folk style wrestling to be freestyle wrestling. That's what you want. Tell everybody that that's what you
I've
truly
said
want.
this. I've said this before. I've said this
State it
before.
publicly. State it publicly for everyone here to
Um,
see that this is what you want.
I would like to see freestyle wrestling in the NCAA as opposed to folk style wrestling, but
For what reason?
nonetheless, I think for a lot of the reasons that I've said before, I think a
Because you
lot
can
of
hand fight someone
the
harder to the
edge
edge.
wrestling,
You'll be rewarded
because you
for.
get rewarded for controlling the center and controlling the hand fight. You get rewarded for getting to a leg attack and pushing them out. I like to see that. I like to see a guy who gets to a leg attack get rewarded at the end of the day, whether or not he ends up in what is deemed control or not. I like to see a guy who gets to a leg, lifts it up. I can walk a guy out. I get a point for that,
I'll tell you
right? You
what.
shouldn't let me do your legs.
I'll tell you what. I see a lot of just possum wrestling and freestyle, and I don't understand how you could see that as any different than someone stepping out
What
of bounds
possum?
at folk
What
style.
possum?
I push you to the edge in freestyle, and you drop to both knees and just slide out.
That rule was just changed this year.
This past year, so tournaments going forward, it wasn't like that in the Olympics, is what you're saying.
It wasn't like that, and no, in the
'Cause I
Olympics
heard-
it was.
yeah,
You were
I
able
heard-
to drop down.
You were able to drop down in the Olympics because I heard that they changed that rule last year, and it was
Maybe it was-
confusing me when I was out in Vegas coaching.
Change that rule this year. This year at the Olympics, it was allowed. You
Okay.
could drop down, and I totally agree. The possum wrestling was dumb. It was silly. You got
You
pushed out
remember
of
Jaden
bounds.
Cox versus David Taylor?
Yeah,
Like
totally.
stupid. It
But
was dumb.
yeah, but it's obviously substantially worse in folk style wrestling when a guy gets to a
How is it
leg
obvious?
and their foot ends up. Um, I'll bring up a match, and I hate to bring up my boy Bernie Truax, but Bernie Truax was wrestling Parker Kekheisen at the NWCA All Star Duels. And Parker Kekheisen was lighting him up when it came to leg attacks and was getting to his legs. And sure enough, the single leg always ended up out of bounds. Right? In my opinion, Parker Kekheisen wrestled a substantially better match in that match, but I think it went into overtime and they had to settle it in overtime. Right? That match, that scoreboard should have been way different in my opinion. That match was dominated by Parker Kekheisen. Is Bernie Truax a great wrestler? Yeah, he could beat Parker Kekheisen on any given day. I think in freestyle too. Bernie can figure things out, right? But I just think that is not what I like to see. I like to see guys getting rewarded. And yeah, do I think that the drop down rule when guys are getting double undered and just drop down their knees is dumb? Totally. Totally think it's dumb. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is my last point. I think that the beautiful thing about folk style wrestling is that there are so many different ways to win a wrestling match, right? In freestyle, there are only really a handful of ways to be able to win a wrestling match. You need to either be good at getting to legs and finishing, you need to be good at stopping someone and throwing them once they get to their legs, or you need to have a really good gut, right? There's like three ways to win in freestyle wrestling, in my opinion. Whereas folk style, dude, there are so many different ways, so many different body types, so many different abilities that are able to compete in matches where most would think, oh, that kid's way better. But you know what? I have the ability to reverse this kid to his back. I have the ability to throw legs in and pin this kid. I have ability to throw a cradle from top. I have abilities in so many different areas that I would not have in the freestyle sport of wrestling that make it at least like a level playing field for kids who might be on different levels on certain things. And that is such a beautiful thing in my eyes, and I would hate to take that away from the sport of wrestling.
I think that the beauty that you're talking about is just as apparent in freestyle. Kids who are different body types, kids who have different styles, kids who are a little bit more slick, kids who can still scramble. Granted, they can't roll across their back is totally apparent in freestyle. I just think
I would disagree
what's
with that.
apparent to me in folk style is that you see a kid really dominate, get to a ton of leg attacks, dominate the center of the mat, dominate and put this kid on the edge, and this kid's on the edge the whole time and he's playing the edge. You can't play the edge in folk style or in freestyle. You can't do it.
Fair.
And I think that's why freestyle is substantially better at determining who is the better wrestler. Granted, I think there is a beauty to mat wrestling and folk style that's a lot harder to see in freestyle because you get such a short time. Granted, guys who are good at parterre, it's very impressive. But I think, in my opinion, being good on top bottom is a little bit cooler in folk style. Being good on the mat is cooler in folk style, but uh, being good on your feet is way more impressive and way more rewarded in freestyle than it is in folk style. Way
That's
more.
fair, and that's why I like folk style the way it is. I don't think it should change because you already award the person that's on their feet more with a 3 point takedown, right? You award the
No,
person
no,
on
no, no,
top.
no, no, no.
No, what?
You get 4 points for turning a guy to his back. You get 3 points for a takedown. Four
Yes,
points. You get more points now as it stands for turning a guy than you do, and you get a riding time point.
which is
You don't get a
great
mat
because
control
guess
point
what? You
when
need
you're.
to be good in all three areas. Going back to my original point, if you get turned consistently on bottom, guess what? You're not going to be a very good folk style wrestler.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is a push out does not change the fact that mat wrestling is still going to matter substantially. If you cannot get away, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you can't get away, it doesn't matter whether or not your opponent got to push out or you got to push out. If you can't get away, it don't matter. If you're gonna get turned, it don't matter.
Yeah, you didn't
I
sway
win.
me. You didn't sway me.
I'm
So
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Um, those are my key points.
those are your key
My key
points.
key points of discussion today, and
We
I'm
had
glad
a
it
we had a good debate there. Damn.
was heated. It was
Yeah.
heated.
Well, you were
I want to
wrong.
look back
So I
through
had
that
to
and
get
clip it.
heated there.
Hey, you look through this, and even if I make good points, you clip it. Okay,
How about you go through and clip it?
I'll go through and clip it.
All right, I will too.
All right. All right, we went through some cool stuff today. We went over national duels. I'm a movie star. That was sweet. I like talking about that. Rehashed divisions in the state tournament. Cleveland State unfortunately got their program cut. Talked about that. Sorry for those guys.
That sucks.
That's
Yeah.
unfortunate, man. Bad luck for the sport.
Oh, hey, we
We
should
went
talk
over
about this. Sorry, I know you
Sure.
were just going through the recap of the whole episode, but hopefully they listened to it all. Yeah, get that Mountain
Okay.
Dew. Get that Mountain Dew. Um, we we should talk about it right now, but Minnesota just kicked the ever loving crap out of Wisconsin tonight, and
How bad?
like 34-3, something like that, 31-3. Um, the
one
one
Nicklar?
match, no, the one match that we won was Zan Fugit against their backup 125, who's a true freshman. Um,
If you
Blake
gets
Weiss.
good. I don't know if you get would have won against who's the starter at 133.
I don't know.
Oh, he just lost to Braden Davis. Coach, who's the starter at 133 Minnesota?
Shout out
133
Azevedo.
Minnesota. What's his name? Bauer.
No, Von Bauer's at 49.
That would have been a tough one. 49?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Von Bauer's at 49 or 41. I'll pull it up right now. Hold on.
Well, the kid just lost to Braden Davis.
Damn. Hold on. I'm pulling it up.
Oh, I think it's the Wales kid.
Tyler Wells.
The Wales kid.
Yeah, that's Wales.
Tyler Wells. Shout out John Azevedo, 1980 Olympian.
Dude, he's
Sleeping
the only
on my bed.
Californian who has a southern accent.
He don't have a southern accent. You tripping?
Is that Wales kid?
You are tripping, bro.
39-3. Von Bar's a 41 pounder.
Ay,
39-3.
39 to 3.
Yes.
That's
Did
like
you
on
did
average
you
of-
see the?
Major.
They had 6 tech falls. Or
What?
was it 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tech falls.
That's so bad. So wait, how did my boy Condon do? Come on, Condon.
So he wrestled Clayton Whiting, and he lost 8-5 in sudden victory. It's a good match.
That's a good match. That's a good match. That's a good match. Shout out Clay. I used to do privates with that guy.
Yeah. Um,
What's his their 84 pounder in Minnesota is a dog.
McAnally.
Max McAnally is a dog.
Yeah, he had a
Did
tech
he
fall.
tech? Yeah, I thought so.
But did you going back to this? Did you see Badger Barstool's post today?
That was insane. I didn't know
That's
Badger Barstool
insane that they
was-
posted that. I couldn't believe they posted
That was insane. They edited it because didn't they had the Not Like Us cover and then they
still
changed
there.
it?
I just went and looked at it like an hour ago. It was still there.
Bad look.
That was tough. I loved how they prefaced
tough.
before the duel too. Like they knew what was gonna happen. Win or lose, we still own you. It's like you can't put that out before, like win or lose.
I can't believe that. I thought it was cool. I like
I'm appreciative of the fandom. I thought that was pretty funny, but I could not believe.
Yeah, I like-
when I saw that, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like someone trying to play off as Badger Barstool, but I surprised the hell out of me when I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I like any opportunity to see people in the comment section talking about was just the state of Wisconsin wrestling in general. People are saying some crazy things, man.
In the comments after that,
People in the comments of anything Wisconsin related, they're going crazy, man. Those comments
you-
are hilarious.
did you saw some of the comments in there? There was one that said "sell the team." I thought that was hilarious.
That's insane. Yeah, and someone said like they put Minnesota's roster of all the Wisconsin guys on the Minnesota roster is like, and someone was like, it's not a flex that Wisconsin guys decided to go to Minnesota.
Yeah, a third of the team is from Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's good for Minnesota. Good for Minnesota. They're recruiting. They know what they're doing.
Oh yeah,
They're getting really good guys. Charlie Millard, Did we talk
Yep.
about him last time? Yeah.
No,
Jordan
that
Hipman.
he beat Chittum. Yes, we did not talk about that. We should talk about that.
Beats Chittum. I mean, Chittum was, if I'm
He's
not
ranked
mistaken, a
8th when he
top
won.
5 pound for pound. Wow, he ranked number 8, top 5 pound for pound kid. Was Charlie a pound for pounder? Not
You're
very high.
saying
He
you're
took
saying in high
6th.
school, correct?
In high school, Cody Chittum was a top
Yeah,
5
yeah.
pound for
Okay.
pounder.
Yes.
That guy was going international and freestyle and killing it.
No, that was a massive win for Charlie. I don't think he was ever a
Yeah.
pound for pound kid.
And how did he do at Fargo this last year?
3rd or 4th. I think he took
Third or
3rd.
fourth?
I think he took
So
3rd.
that's pretty good. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
good. Charlie's gonna be good.
He's a dog.
Yeah. But did I think that he was gonna beat Cody Chittum? No way.
In year
That was
one.
awesome. Year 1. Minnesota's doing some good. They got a good program, man. And I think that now that they've got Gable back, that probably brings a lot of momentum to the team. But they've got guys, Max McAnally, Charlie Millard. They've got a lot of Wisconsin guys that are pretty dang good. How's let's look up Coy Hopke and see how he's been doing
I
recently.
don't know. He's been.
How's he gonna
redshirted.
fill the shoes of?
I have no idea. Are you looking it up?
How's how's he gonna fill the shoes of Gable Steveson? I wonder. He's redshirting at 0-0.
I heard he might have
But he
gotten
could be the
injured,
guy.
actually.
He could be the guy next year. We take. I would guess that he's injured. Even if you're redshirting, you're probably gonna rust some minutes. But
Yeah, if he's 0-0.
all right, Pat.
Yeah, it's late here.
Good
brother.
talk
I gotta
today.
go to bed.
Talked about. Yeah, it's like 1 a.m. for you, but yeah, good discussions here today. Thank you guys all for watching. I'm Evan Wick,
I'm Patrick Spray.
and this is